because maybe we don't fit the mold that they want us to, hence Jean, who cannot just be the meh emoji. And we have to go through this journey of finding ourselves.
All right, and you are locked into another episode of the ExesandTea Podcast. My name is Josh, and we are glad to be back with you in this month of January. We have a lot of guests this month, so I'm thinking about calling it like Guestuary or whatever. But another person who is glad to be here in January in the new year is my lovely wife, Rebecca.
Guestuary. That's interesting.
Well, I mean, it's like the portmanteau that I'm doing. You take two words and you smush them together, and boom, you got a new word, new meaning.
Yeah, that's true.
So we discussed last week about our resolutions. How are those going for you, Becca?
I mean, still working on goals and things that I want to accomplish. So, yeah, it's going.
Well, I mean, to be expected. It's only the second week of January, so it's fine. My resolutions, I didn't set too many. I set ones I knew were attainable. I'm still working on them. For today's guest, we were actually on their podcast previously, so we are proud to welcome Dani from the Exes and Tea Podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. We're happy to have you, and we had a great time on your podcast as well.
We did. Got a little fired up.
Yeah, we did. It was so fun, and we'll be talking about that during our interview portion of this episode. But Dani, for you, did you set any type of New Year's resolutions, any New Year's goals for yourself?
Yeah, actually, we have quite a few as a family. I think we want to do more outings as a family, as well as just trying to get through 2024. But definitely more outings as a family. We have this puppy, and now that he can actually leave the house, we're hoping to do more walking and more hiking and stuff like that.
That's awesome. Yeah. So what kind of puppy is it again? I know you told us at one point.
Yeah, so he's a German Shepherd mix. We're 90% sure he's mixed with Lab. Every picture that we have seen German Shepherd Lab mix is identical to him, so I'm pretty sure that's what he is.
Nice. That's awesome. Love puppies.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should do more outings with our dogs too.
We really should.
And we need to go to the PARK. The reason why I'm spelling is because that is only Ginger's favorite word. And if we say it,
she'll think we're going.
Yeah, which we're not. Not. Well,
not right now.
Yeah, not right now. All right, Dani. So for our audience to get to know you a little bit better, we're going to go ahead and ask you some questions. So Becca, if you'll take it away with the interview.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, you have a podcast, which is really exciting. So tell us a little bit about your podcast. What is it about?
Yeah, so I run the Exes and Tea Podcast, and it kind of started out as this journey to spread awareness and share my story when it comes to domestic violence. And kind of through that journey and talking about toxic relationships, I ended up talking about my time in an alleged commercial cult. And then it kind of turned into this anti-MLM, anti-cult kind of content. So I have quite a few people who come on and they talk about their times, and we've had a couple of different places. So a lot of it is Amway. This is my personal opinion about the organization. So anything that I talk about is purely just my personal perspective here, but we talk a lot about Amway. We talk about their lines of affiliation. We've actually had somebody come on and talk about, I believe, the Potter's House as well, just a couple of different things. And it's really just to help spread awareness.
That's awesome. Yeah. And which is how we met you, is through your podcast. Josh active on, responding to a lot of things on social media and everything. And we had listened to your podcast before. And that's what we did on your podcast when we recorded, is we talked about our story of being in Amway and just what that was all about. So if anyone's interested, feel free to check that out.
Yeah, we'll have that episode linked in the description.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So that's a very exciting. So as a fellow podcaster, what would you say is the most rewarding and perhaps the most frustrating part of the whole process for you?
Great question. So the most rewarding part is getting to meet new people just like you guys, the opportunity to give people that platform to speak, because if anybody has any knowledge of these organizations, that a lot of us join because we want to help other people. We want to be able to share our stories, and a lot of times we're silenced. So I would love to be able to continue that. The most frustrating part can be, I would say sometimes it's editing or trying to find time in the day to be able to edit. Those I think can be the most frustrating aspects, but I wouldn't say it's discouraging.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's kind of it's good when that's like the most frustrating part and it's like not that bad. So that's great. Yeah. It's nice that you do what you love. You love what you do. Yeah. So you've done numerous episodes regarding MLMs, as you mentioned earlier, particularly with Amway and Worldwide Dream Builders. Specifically, that's what you were a part of. But what has been your favorite episode that you've recorded? And why do you think that people have really latched onto the podcast? That's kind of like double question.
Yeah. Well, actually, so my most popular episode is actually my very first guest, who was somebody that I actually did not know altogether. Her name is Hope, and she is one of our friends for, I would imagine all of us, the North, depending on where everybody is in the world, but she's from Canada and she was in the Canadian market. And I think with her and with her husband, they talked a lot about how do we get tricked into this? And I think with other people, and what they really like about it is that they can relate to it, or maybe it's just entertaining to kind of have that, well, how did you get wrapped up into it kind of mentality, which we go over quite a bit as to how on earth a lot of people get into this organization. But my personal favorite episode, actually, it's very old. But we had this girl come on, and she is a survivor of a very traumatic experience. She is actually kind of entangled into my original domestic violence story. And so she came on with her perspective, because she was a minor during this time. And I just will always appreciate her bravery for coming on and talking about what it was like to, from kind of start to finish. And really that part of, she was almost had to testify in court. We all did. And thankfully she did not. So I think that's my personal favorite episode that we've done.
Wow. It sounds like you deal with a lot of stressful conversations, really deep and kind of dark conversations. How do you handle that?
That's a great question. I have to distance myself for sure. I try to stay off social media when I can, or maybe just kind of keep things lighthearted and maybe watch like some of my favorite YouTubers or listen to like YouTube podcasts that aren't so stressful. I think my guilty pleasure is like YouTube drama. So I'm like, okay, I can focus on other people's nonsense and not mine. And then I usually just try to digest things with my significant other, just kind of, because he has no idea. He just kind of sits there and he's like, yeah, I'm really supportive of you. And I'm like, please just listen. And he does. And music too. Music has been a true blessing to me. Like that is what gets me through anything.
What kind of music do you listen to?
I listen to country music, actually. It's usually everybody's except for genre.
That's funny. My except for genre is rap, if I'm honest. Okay. But, yeah, country has its place. Although I will say country now and country 20, 30 years ago, very different.
Well, because we have like pop country and bro country and
right.
Like every genre has kind of like melted into a country song here or there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you like the newer country music then, or more old school?
I do not. Yeah, I like the old school
Old
music.
school?
My favorite artist is Eric Church, and I like him
Yeah.
because he's a lot more of like a traditionalist. He did not go the way of bro country, thankfully. I am not a bro country fan. I try my best not to gatekeep. I was definitely that person a couple years ago where I was like, you don't like real country. But like nowadays, I'm like, no, you can like what you like. It's fine. But I prefer like him. But my ultimate favorite is like 90s and before.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I listened to a little bit of country. Now, growing up in the church, I was only allowed to listen to Christian music, which is just so much you can take of that. But I used to listen to like Kenny Chesney, Tim McGraw, some Randy Travis. So what I consider to be the '90s, back in that era. So yeah,
Classic time.
hmm
So, so today, I'm sure everyone knows by the title of this episode. Today, we're going to be talking about the Emoji Movie, which is really exciting. So, what are your most used emojis? Top 5, if you have them.
That's a great question. I use the like laugh crying face, the like 3 variations of it. The one that's like, like to the side, and then the one that's like regular. I use the smiley face a lot. And sometimes I use the guy who's like this, because I'll ask a question. I'll just be like, that guy. So I would say those are probably my most used emojis.
Okay. Nice.
What about you, Rebecca? What are your top 5?
Top 5. Yeah, smiley face. I'll usually use the laugh crying one that's like off kilter. That's like, turned to the side. Depending on the level of hilarity. Or I'll use the eye roll one that's like looking up. Or I know there's a couple of others, but I'm eclectic, What can I say?
For me, it's generally the smiley face, the upright laugh crying, the thumbs up, and sometimes I'll use the skull face. If I think something's just like just very hilarious and I'm like dying laughing. So those will be mine. But as Rebecca said, we are going to be discussing today the Emoji Movie, and that has been suggested by our dear friend Dani here today. And so, Rebecca, go ahead and give us a synopsis of this movie.
Yeah. So, synopsis of this movie. Gosh, it's like a mashup of several movies that you've already seen. I would say Wreck-It Ralph and I forgot. Inside Out. I was like the Emotions movie, whatever that one is. Inside Out is kind of a mix up between those two. The basic idea is that there's this kid. I don't remember his name.
Gene.
No, not Gene. The user.
Alex.
Alex. Yeah, Alex. Thank you. So Alex is like the user in the real world, and he's got a phone that everyone has. And it's, all the apps and everything on your phone. And so the idea is that inside the world of the phone is it's like a whole new world. Kind of like oh my gosh, what is that? Is it the 90s movie or early 2000s movie that's all about in your body? Osmosis Jones?
Yeah.
Kind of like that, only for your smartphone.
Yeah.
And yeah, so there's like this whole world, and we meet our main characters who are the emojis. And Gene, the main character, is supposed to be the meh emoji. And so apparently all of these emojis have to like constantly be whatever their emoji is. And he is all over the place. He's like, I can't be just meh. I'm so excited about life. Life is great. And so he can make all of these different faces. And then you like the emojis like go up into like the grid, I think is what they called it. And if you get scanned, then you have to be.
Yeah, the grid or the cube, I think.
Something like that. Yeah. And then you have to be that certain emotion. whatever it is that you are. And of course, this does not go well. Jean's first day. And so, anyway, he ends up going on a journey to become someone different so that he can actually be the meh emoji. And, you get to see going into different apps on the phone and what would that be like, and how that transpires. So that's a little bit about the movie and the journey that the emojis go on.
And when looking up this movie, now we had seen it like years past, like a little bit after it came out initially. When I was looking on IMDb, there is a lot of mixed reviews. I think the rating on IMDb was like 3 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes was like 28% for audience score. So I was like, oh, is it really that as terrible as we remember? And then there were other users and reviewers say, oh no, it's really good, or oh, it's okay, but other movies have done it better. So at least I enjoyed it. Like, yeah, it's it's sweet and fun and cute and all, and there's a lot of one-liners. But Rebecca, what were your overall like impressions?
Oh, I would much rather hear why Dani chose this movie. In the first place.
Sorry,
yeah. What
skipped over that. Yep.
What made you want to choose this movie?
So this is actually one of my favorite animated movies. I'm not much of an animated movie person. So when I saw this one, actually it kind of, when it first was coming out, it became like an inside joke with one of my favorite YouTubers. And so like he was constantly talking about it, and it was really only his audience that was like super fired up about this movie that everyone thought was going to be terrible. And so we saw it with my child, and I was like, no, I like this. And it kind of recently came up this last summer. I have a little brother who is the same age as my son, and he was like dogging on this movie. He's like, I hate it, but he's never seen it. And so I'm trying to convince him that this is the greatest movie ever. And I just really enjoy it. I think it's very underrated, and I think there's a lot of value when it comes to it. And I thought your explanation of like Wreck-It Ralph meets Inside Out was really good, because it's very true.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, it's such an interesting movie. I think they, did your little brother end up watching it?
No, I sent him Emoji Movie memes every now and then just to annoy him, and he loves it. Secretly, he does. He'll always send me like an eye roll emoji back. But no, I haven't gone and watched it yet. I'm hoping that like this next summer, hopefully we can. But we'll see.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome. It's and you're right. There's lots of things that we can pull out from this movie of good life lessons and things to talk about. I will say it. I know it's your favorite movie, Dani. I would not say it's my favorite movie. It's not bad, I don't think.
It's just not one you personally would just pick out and watch on any given day.
Right. And that's just me. But yeah, there are a lot of good lessons, I think, in there, particularly about, your identity being who you are. And you don't have to fit into the box of what other people put you in, like, or how they think you should act. Be who you are. Would you say that that's the main message that you get out of it, Dani?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that's what I think I really liked when it's not my child's favorite movie either. But when it comes to this movie, I think it's a fantastic message when it comes to, we understand the criticisms that we receive from society because maybe we don't fit the mold that they want us to, hence Jean, who cannot just be the meh emoji. And we have to go through this journey of finding ourselves and learning how to love ourselves. And I think that's my favorite part of the message from this movie.
Mm. Yeah, learning to love yourself, that can be a difficult journey, for sure.
Because there are things that we can pick apart about ourselves that we don't like, and we begin to dissect, and we kind of feel like the meh about ourselves at the end of all of it. But yeah, that self-acceptance, that loving yourself, that embracing your differences, I feel, Danny, just as you said and Rebecca has said, are the main messages of this movie. And we then have Jailbreak, who is donning, again, spoilers on this, who is donning another persona. Yeah. Thank you. Another persona. So they're not even like embracing like their differences. Well, I mean, they were the princess, so they want to be like something different because they didn't want to be controlled by all the rules, and they didn't want to live on the phone. They want to be in the cloud.
Well, she's a little rebel. The Jailbreak. So she was like, that's how she is. So she can't change, I guess, what, like the color of her hair or anything, but so she wears a wig. But yeah, she's a little rebel. She wants to do what she wants to do. She wants to be out in the cloud, and she did. She made that happen.
Yeah, by going to what they call Dropbox.
Yeah, it was so interesting to see how they like portrayed the inner workings. Like even Spotify, like they could ride the waves of the sound waves in the Spotify app, which I thought that was kind of funny. I will say it did seem like like all of the big apps that they really portrayed in there, it was an ad for like a lot of the apps that they had. So that was maybe that's why it's kind of off-putting to people, is because it was like, okay, you're just trying to sell these apps like, oh yes, it's completely secure, the Dropbox ad. So the antivirus or whatever that the things that were coming after them, they couldn't get into Dropbox because it was safe. And I was like, okay, I see what you did there.
And also, well, we see that again in Ralph Wrecks the Internet, but it was done more tastefully. I mean, we had things like they showed like Twitter and Facebook and eBay, but really what they were selling was their own entities. And I'm like, yeah, let's go to Disney.com. But yeah. So Danny, what were your favorite moments of this movie?
I definitely think that the writing of the sound waves was really, really cool to me. I was like, man, how amazing would it be to be able to immerse yourself into that world? That's definitely one of my favorite scenes. But I think really kind of in the scene where Gene's kind of freaking out because it's first time in the cube and he's getting scanned, and he's scanned as all these different emojis, and it shows up on Alex's phone as just like one really like kind of messed up emoji. I thought that was really funny, and I thought that was a great way to kind of set up for him and his journey of having to figure out how to be all of those emojis. But then also, of course, there's that ending scene where again we see him in the cube and getting scanned, and he has kind of figured out, okay, I can be all of these emojis, but it doesn't have to be mushed up like this. It can be almost like a GIF, if that makes sense. Like, am I saying that right? GIF? I don't even know how to say that one.
Everybody has different opinions. I say GIF.
Same.
Yeah. But you're right. It is. It's very much that way where it continues to change. And like the confused face. Yeah, I like that. I think my favorite scenes, I had it and then it just left my brain. So Josh, why don't you say what your favorite scenes were?
Yeah. So we have I don't know if he had a name or if it was just called High Five. The character played by James Corden, who
he was funny. Yeah. I liked his character.
He had a lot of one-liners, which I enjoyed. But again, he's a comedian. So I liked that character. The Just Dance scene was pretty cute. That was fun. I like that. I'm trying to remember like, the antagonist, the smiley or smiler, the woman emoji smile. Yeah, she was a trip.
It's creepy.
Yeah, she was. All right, Becky, you have yours?
Yeah. I remembered when you said the Just Dance or Just Dance or Dance Revolution.
Just Dance.
Whatever it is. Yeah. That one, I think that was my favorite scene because that was the first time that, well, first of all, when they go in, they were like, okay, we can't turn this on because we'll get stuck in here.
Oh, and high five.
Then high five was like, button, push. and I think he used, though, his being a high five as like an excuse, which I think a lot of people do. Like they're just like, oh, well, I'm a Northerner, so I'm just going to be rude. And you're like, no.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
Everyone should know what being rude sounds like. Like you can be nice. Yeah. Anyway. So he pushes that button and then but then they go through and get to dance. And that was really fun to try to see the princess open up. That was cool to be able to see her begin to be okay with, I don't know who she is, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Speaking of high five, using him being a high five as an excuse to do whatever. I saw a TikTok recently that a teacher who has students that were, this is the year of AI generated essays. So I usually say, hey, if you turn in an AI written essay, it'll be a 0 until you rewrite it. And so she had the student who had turned in like five AI generated written essays. And so she called, his parents, and their excuse was like, well, he's an Aquarius, so like, I don't understand what that has to do with academics. She's like, well, astrology is not part of our academic curriculum, so it's still going to be a 0 till he rewrites it. And I'm like, oh, he'll do it immediately. Side note, he did not. But Dani, you had taken some notes on the movie. What were some points that you want to bring up?
Well, I think that when Rebecca, you were talking about that it's really just one big advertisement. That is what is like so ironic about this movie. Like most people, realistically, they hate watch it as like a joke, and then it's kind of like, you're watching it ironically, and that's kind of how it started off for me until I actually liked it, and it really made me think of like the Lego Movie, which again, just one big advertisement. But one thing that I was thinking about when I was watching the movie, and my son had asked me, so they portray emoticons as the elderly, and I just thought I held on to that because my son's like, did you really used to use those? And I was like, yes son, we did. And then I'm like showing him like what like emoticons used to look like and how basic we would just use the colon and the parentheses to make a smiley face. Such an odd concept for these children today. So I thought that portrayal was really funny. But I think they make a lot of like nods, like the alien. He's like, beam me up. I thought that was great as well. Just different things that I think parents can, take and maybe like, oh, something that only the parents would really understand. And I think that's what I really liked about it is that like kids can watch it and then parents can have those different things as well about them. Similar again to the Lego Movie too. Like I love the Lego Movie, but this one's definitely my favorite. I loved being able to connect with the characters and have that understanding. There's a lot of different things that I think were good takeaways. Just the ability to not crumble under pressure. Like for Gene, he's like, I gotta be meh. And then it's time to be meh, and you can't be meh. And I was thinking about like when I started my podcast, I was terrified. I was so scared. And I'm thinking like, okay, I can't crack under pressure. And of course it wasn't live by any means. But when I tell you, it took me like 4 times to even just begin the recording. And I was thinking about that when I was watching Gene crumble. And I'm like, man, how much pressure do we have from society to be who we are? And it was a really good learning point for, my kids love the Magic School Bus. And they're like, one of Miss Frizzle's favorite things to say is like, you need to fail. And it's always, portrayed well. And that was one of those learning curves where it was like, no, it's okay for him to fail. Like, we don't have to try to, quote, delete him or he's a malfunction because he's not the same, kind of a thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just because you're different than other people in society, it doesn't mean that you're worthless, and it doesn't mean that, you have to be deleted because you're a malfunction, that, maybe that God made a mistake or anything like that. It's no, you have a purpose too. I think there's particularly kids who have, and people in general, but kids who are autistic or have ADHD or perhaps something even more serious, these sort of disorders, and it can be really easy to think that they're so different and they could never fit in. It reminds me of a really cool story about the guy who wrote Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief and all of the book series that came after that, which Disney is doing a TV series on Disney Plus, which I'm so excited about. It's such a good story. Anyway, the Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief was the first book, but it's all about this kid who has ADHD and dyslexia, and there was something else. But anyway, the dad, the author, wrote it for his son, and because he had those things, and he thought that he was different, and that was really hard. And in the story, Percy, he finds out that he's half Olympian, I think, a god from Olympus, and a demigod. There we go. And he has dyslexia because his brain is hardwired for reading ancient Greek. And he has ADHD because that gives him like superpowers, basically fighting. And it was just all of these like reasons why those things, which his, the son and Percy thought that they were a negative thing. And it's like, no, this is actually really cool. And I think Gene he kind of learns the same lesson, that no, you have a special purpose. You're not a malfunction. There's nothing like wrong with you. It just means you can show more emotions, and you can, react to people in different ways.
Yeah, we don't have to be stuck being like one single thing, because nobody's one single emotion or single. There is no one thing that defines somebody. It's a hodgepodge of all different things, and to be just one thing, like one thing that defines you, I think it would be a very boring existence, if I'm being honest. Even if you were labeled as being like fantastic or well spoken or eloquent, if that's all you are, then and there's nothing else, then you're not a what I would classify as a diverse person.
I think everyone is diverse, and it's okay. Yeah. That's kind of what we learned with, Inside Out, right? That you don't have to just be joyful all the time. It's okay to be sad too. And you know what? You can actually have two emotions at the same time, and that's really normal. And that's okay. It's okay to be that way.
That's actually something that we heavily preach in our home, because pretty much everybody in our home is neurodivergent. Like, we have a child with autism, and we have, like, all of us have ADHD. And so it can be really challenging to watch, children with these differences and maybe the way that other kids view them. It's hard sometimes as a parent to watch that. And watching the scene with Jean's parents arguing about their son, they both love their son equally, but they're both having a hard time with their differences. And as a parent, to neurodivergent children and having a significant other, like these are our kids, and we like that's a very real thing. It's very, very real and common for us as parents to not, we're not disagreeing because we don't like or are like not appreciative of our children. It's we're both scared in different ways for them, and it kind of comes off differently. So that was a really big part for me that I was like, oh, I get it. I understand why they're having this disagreement, not because they feel any negative way towards Jean. It's because they both have these different fears of, well, Jean's not ready to be on the phone. Oh no, Jean is ready to be on the phone. And it can be tough watching that happen. So that was a really big point for me.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. That's so true. Even though the parents' expressions, they were the meh emotions, you could still tell that they did actually care about their son. So it was nice. It was nice that they were able to still like be the meh emojis, and yet still convey that that love, because you could still you could tell that they cared for their son.
Yeah, when Rebecca and I were watching this, we looked at each other. It's like, could you imagine in our relationship if we had that emotion towards each other just all the time? It
would be hard.
It would be. Yeah. But yeah, there's so many great messages to take away from this movie, and as we've said previously, yeah, it does get a lot of flack, and it is a little bit off-putting because it does feel like one big advertisement.
I feel like, though, I will say, I don't think it deserves all the negative about it. I think people kind of, they take it too far. While it may not be my favorite, it was still a cute little movie, and there are lots of really good lessons when you really dig into it. Like our conversations that we're having today. There are a lot of really good things to take away. It was entertaining. So I don't think it deserves all of the hate that it gets.
Right. And and we have this big overarching, plot, which is Jean going to be jailbroken to be changed so he can be met all the time. But then we have the subplot, which I think is very small because we only have like a few what I would call cutscenes in the quote unquote real world with Alex and him wanting to, ask out Addie to the dance. And everybody's freaking out because he's going to go to the equivalent of the equivalent of the Apple store or the wireless store.
Is that what they called it?
Yeah,
the wireless one. Yes.
Yeah. So
very creative.
Yeah, and everybody's freaking out. So we're going to be deleted, and you see like it kind of reminded me of what was it? In Wreck-It Ralph when they like unplugged the game and like everything like
they all had to like run out of the little power cord
right
into the power strip, right?
Yeah, but I mean apparently that's not an option for phone apps. It's all wiped out.
Yeah, that was kind of crazy how they portrayed that.
Yeah, and I know it's fictional and make believe, but there is no way that you can just unplug in the middle of deletion and magically everything restores. No.
That's not how that works.
It'll be corrupted, that's for sure. But I mean,
that's a whole nother movie, Josh.
Yeah, it is. maybe it's
the
a
realistic
sequel.
version.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, the realistic version.
Dani, if you were to give somebody like a big takeaway from this movie and your personal recommendation, what would you say to them?
I would say that this is a movie that you can watch I feel like you can watch this when you're sad. Maybe you're feeling down about yourself as a human, because there's two different messages that I love about this. It's love yourself, but it's also don't be afraid to express yourself, which is kind of that portion with Alex where he is stressing out for an entire day, which I remember being a teenager. This is real, but stressing out like, which emoji do I respond with? And his ability to finally decide like, okay, I'm going to choose this one, which of course we all know now is all different emotions, but don't be afraid to show your emotions and love yourself.
Wonderful. And Rebecca, what would be your recommendation?
To watch it or not watch it?
Yeah. And a personal takeaway for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good movie to watch if you've never seen it. It's cute. Yeah, you should go watch it. Personal takeaway, there was something that niggled at my brain while you were talking, Dani, and now it has disappeared. Apparently, I'm not all there right now.
And that's the end of the episode, everyone.
I guess so. Yeah, I mean, I think I've said most of my thoughts. So,
right. Well, I would recommend this movie, even though it did get a 3 on IMDb and it is 30% on Rotten Tomatoes. But if I went by critics' reviews of what to watch and what not to watch,
you never watch like anything.
Exactly.
The things you did watch would probably be bad.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I feel like a lot of critics do is they build up these movies that are just like, well, meh. And then, and they're like, yeah, you need to watch it. And then you watch it and like, well, that's not special. And it's just like, the Little Mermaid remake that came out and the Barbie movie,
meaning that they were not so good, or?
Well, no, they were good. Well, not the Little Mermaid remake. No, the Barbie movie was good. Yeah.
I would say The Little Mermaid was good. I did actually watch it. The newer one. The only thing I did not like was the Scuttlebutt song.
Oh gosh. Yeah, you showed me that. I'm like,
that was the worst. Truly. Like, who thought this was a good idea? I don't know.
But yeah, and my personal takeaway is it's okay to love yourself. You should love yourself, and whatever emotions you want to convey, even for a guy, don't be afraid to cry. Don't be afraid to be sad. I feel as men sometimes we're portrayed as like, oh well, men are rough and tough and angry. But no, we got a sensitive side. I do. It's fine. It's okay. But yeah, I would certainly recommend this. We want to thank our guest Dani for being with us on this episode. Dani, for those of you who want to follow you, keep up with your podcasts and what you're up to, where can they follow you?
I would say I'm most active on Instagram. So that's at ExesandTea.podcast. But that handle is really applicable anywhere. My podcast is on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, pretty much everywhere podcasts are heard.
And we would recommend that you go check out her podcast. It's great. Again, majority is about MLA, anti-MLM content. But again, I've enjoyed it. I've listened to many episodes of it. So we will have the links in the description to Dani's podcast and, of course, the episode that we appeared on. Until next time, keep those halos shining and stay holy, my friends.